Back. Are we on?
Yes, we are on now.
We are on.
Okay, Diane.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to our Parks Committee meeting for CB10. It's a pleasure to have everyone here with us tonight. Are you sharing a screen?
Yeah, I was just putting up the agenda for everyone.
Okay, thank you. I was going to look for it on my email.
Okay, it's right here. It's right up on. the
Okay,
screen.
so here we go. See, that's what happens when you have a new grandchild. Everything gets crazy.
I know that one.
In any case, tonight's agenda includes a request to co-name a portion of Leif Erikson Park as the Peter Lovett
Love it.
Pickleball Park. And later in the presentation, we will have New York Parks presenting their path. I can't see that was the asphalt path work at Diker Beach Park. So we will begin with the presentation of the renaming of part of Leif Erikson Park. And who do I have here from Park? Chris, are you here?
Actually, I think the
I'm here and Jim is here as well.
no, okay.
Okay.
But
Hi, Jim.
I think the applicant is going to provide the presentation.
Okay,
Um,
Mabel,
or-
welcome.
Hi, Mabel.
Hi. I asked my brother John to join because he and Peter both work together in the parks. You know, John worked for Allstate, but he would be involved in a lot of the events that Peter would be involved. So I'd like Peter to, John to speak to John. Can you start off, please?
Good, it'd be great. First of all, thank you everyone for attending this. My brother Peter. As you know, Peter had a love for the parks. I'll just give a little history how he got into the parks. Our grandfather, named after my brother Peter's named after him, was also a part of the parks back in the day. So when Peter became worked for the parks, he was just so overjoyed with it. And to tell you the truth, I don't think my brother ever felt this was a job. I think he loved working the parks. He loved recreation, and he loved working in the community and developing different things for people to do. And I joke with a lot of my friends, and I always say that my brother, they asked, when is your brother going to retire? So my brother's going to retire when the last squirrel leaves Prospect Park. He was just so dedicated to the parks. My brother was also, just to give you a history of my brother, we both went to grammar school, Holy Innocents in Brooklyn. We're from Flatbush. Then we both moved on to Powell Memorial High School in Manhattan, where we both ran track for Powell Memorial. And fortunately, we did pretty well in the sport. We ended up being national champs in the 2-mile relay, and we also won the Penn Relays, which is it is the oldest track meet in the country at the University of Penn, and we won that back in 1969. And not only did we win it, we also set the record that would last for over 20 years. And at the 100th anniversary of the Penn Relays, what they did was they honored prior record holders and people who competed in the Penn Relays. And we were the first high school to be inducted to they call it the Wall of Fame. So if you ever go down to the University of Penn and walk around the track, the bottom part of the track is all brick. And what they did was they put the 4 people on the relay, their names on that plaque. So we're the first high school. And with that, we both got scholarships to go to college. Peter went to West Kentucky for a few years, and then he decided to do something different. And I went to Manhattan College. Peter continued in the sport. Even when he graduated from school, he ended up running masters, where he was also recognized one of the top master runners in New York City. Actually, he had a record in where I live right now is in Rockaway. And at the age of 40, he won this called the Rockapulco 5K. It was a record that lasted, again, for over 20 years. I think my brother has things for 20 years. But So he was a phenomenal runner. And then when he got into the park, we always talked so many times, all the different things he'd done in parks. And you know, he loved it so much. All he wanted to do was make people happy, make people enjoy coming to the park, just like as we enjoyed going to parks growing up. And actually, the park that they're thinking about naming for my brother, part of the park, the pickleball park. When we were kids, actually, my parents would take us to that park when they honored Norwegian Day, and they would have a parade, and we would all go to it. Although we're Irish, but my parents always like to show the diversity of people, and my brother saw that, and I saw it, and we just loved it. Coming out to Bay Ridge and being in Lee Ferguson Park. And it's like, you know, he's always, when he came to the community, especially when he's dealing with senior citizens, there was such a joy that we would talk a lot of times, you know, he would say what he wanted to do to get the senior citizens involved. And he always wanted to bring kids together with them. For the kids' sake, they can learn the wisdom of the seniors. And for the seniors, I think the kids brought so much joy and happiness. And what happens, you don't start thinking, you don't think you're old anymore. You think you're young, just like the kids. I think my brother that's what he brought to that center. And if it's dancing, my brother took step dancing, Irish step dancing, and did it with the parks. They would go down on 3rd Avenue, 9th Avenue, Manhattan. Once a year, they would go there. And he would do so many different things with senior citizens just to get him involved, to get him out. My brother, because he was the runner, he knew what it's like to train people. And it was also, when you train people, you start off slow and you eventually gradually build into it. So he got the young people, the seniors, some of them, the last couple of years was like getting them out to walk, I think along Shore Parkway. So he was always looking to do something for the community, and never wanted, he never wanted the glory. He never wanted anyone to, it was never about him. Let's put it that way. Whatever he did, it was never about him. His joy when we were able to do something, or get a bus ride into the city and take them to a restaurant when they go on a trip. My brother knows all these different restaurants you can go to, and he may say, hey, let's stop here, get some, we'll go to Katz's restaurant, and they would love it. They would just, all these little things my brother would do. When the people came back, they just saw the joy and happiness. But that was my brother's reward, seeing the happiness and the people talking, or the guys put my brother go in there, and he was set up in the center, music from the 40s, which we grew up with. And the senior citizens that were there, that was when my brother first started, that was one of the great things that they loved. They just, all of a sudden, instead of hearing all this other music, they were hearing their music, and they felt like kids again. And when my brother, I think it was his birthday or something, they had I think it was his birthday, they had a party from it in the center. And all the people that showed up and the love for my brother. And when my brother passed away, you know, you always hear stories at wakes about something about you never knew about your brother, or any family member for that matter. But one of the things that touched me, and it wasn't just one person, but two people. My brother never took off unless he was really sick. That's why when he passed away, he didn't come to work the next day, and everyone was shocked. But my brother didn't like missing work. He didn't call it work. He just loved going to the parks. And when he was at the wake, two different people said to me, he says, when they were struggling and he used up all their vacation time, my brother would give him like a whole month. My brother had so much time, but he gave him like a whole month of one of his vacations that he had, that he booked up and something like that. And that's the type of guy he was, you know, to be able to help people. Didn't want, and he never told me about this, but never, you know, bragged about himself. Even when we were running, you know, we were a really, really good team. I'm a good bragger. I can brag. Don't worry about it. I can give you an hour or two if I want to brag. And Peter was very, very, very good. But I got a lot of the glory because I was in track. If you're the anchor man, you get the glory. It's like being the quarterback in football. You get all the glory. But it's really anyone that's on that team what wins the championship. And my brother was that guy. Without him, Powell Memorial would not have won the city champion cross country or the 2-mile relay where we're #1 in the country. And it was just so many different things that, my brother would never take the glory or never wanted to hear, like, you know, he was happy for me that I was doing well rather than him. And so I mean, that's a little blip of who my brother is. And I think is a great choice of the pickleball park in Leif Erikson, because first of all, it's really what everything he did was all for that pickleball park. I mean, someone sent me, and I have to read it to you. I thought it was just, this kind of sums it up. This guy sent it to I'm on Instagram, and he says, this is what he wrote about my brother. He says, his spirit and life keeps on giving at the pickleball courts, because apparently he's a member at that center in Brooklyn. The senior center director at Fort Hamilton, he introduced the sport there at Leif Erikson Park. The game has expanded beyond seniors, and he would be humbly proud of his efforts. The sense of community that has evolved is a wonder to behold. So, for someone to take their time out to say that, and how to find me on that, to say that about my brother, that kind of sums up what it is. And my brother would be honored to have this naming of the park, because again, he's leaving something about him at the park, and his namesake, my grandfather. It's just kind of like that name. That's something like he left when he leaves. When he left the name of his name in the park that hopefully will be forever. And that's about it. Any questions? I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Diane, you're on mute.
John and Mabel, I can just tell you that Peter was an amazing, amazing man who left his mark on our community. Each time we had our meetings at the center, he was always that friendly face, greeting us. He was just a wonderful human being. And I was, saddened to hear of his passing, but very glad to hear of this proposal to name the pickleball park in his honor. You should be very proud of the legacy that he left.
We are.
Absolutely.
And Diane, I want to share with you too that following the posting, and I think following our last general board meeting where Joe Walsh raised the idea, the office received, at least, I was trying to count them, about 25 calls from seniors and people whose lives Peter touched. And I think the recurring theme is in many that I got to speak to, some of whom I had never met before, sharing how he changed their lives for the better, got them involved at various times. Some people were widowered, and the senior center and the activities there became a real part of a road to recovery for many of the people who called. And Peter's spirit, which we're talking about over and over again, he continues to live on. And I think that many of the stories about the pickleball court during the pandemic were, also particularly moving for me, hearing some of the stories as people contacted us to share their support for this application. So I just wanted to let the committee members know that there was really a groundswell of support following the submission of this application.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make any comments or raise any questions?
I just want to say one thing, just so our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I got 76 signatures so far for the petition. I don't know if that's a lot or a little. I can obviously get more if you need more. But just to tell you how I wrote on top of the petition. So I support adding the name Peter Lovett Pickleball Park to the area of Leif Erikson Park at 66th Street and 8th Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. This area has 4 permanent pickleball courts and it's approximately 120 feet by 60 feet. Is that appropriate to what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay. Is 76 a good number, or should I go for more? Or I could get more. I got this in a couple of hours. It was very easy, but is there a limit so I'm just wasting my time, or what should I do?
No, that's fine with me. I think if you wanted to get some more, that's great too. You could submit to us what we have. So we could forward that to the, as part of the record in our request to the
You
Parks
mean I
Department.
should scan it and send it to you, or you're waiting for the next board meeting?
You can scan and send it to us whenever you're ready.
Okay. Okay, I'll see if I can do, I'll
Let me
scan
add-
what I got tomorrow. And you think I should get more though? It would be better to have more, you think, or am I?
It's always good to have more.
Okay,
Joe,
okay.
let me
Yeah, I mean, I
thank
could probably get about 190, 200 pretty easy.
Joe, let me thank you again for what you've done for my brother. I really appreciate it, my sister and I. And that's very nice of you, and I want to thank you personally.
Yeah, you're welcome. Peter was a good friend. I had a lot of fun with Peter. And I'm happy to do it. And it's so easy. I was speaking to Eileen Dalton yesterday, and I said, sometimes when you get involved in these things, you got to be careful. There's always that one person who didn't like somebody.
Sure.
You don't have to worry about with the Peter. There's nobody out there that doesn't like him. It's incredible, And I made the proposal. I think June Johnson had suggested it to me. I was just talking to her at the center, and she brought it up to, what procedure you should do. And so I did it. And then when I was finished, before I went home, I mean, people were coming up, shaking my hand left and right that I had never met. And I mean, a big impetus for me, I liked Peter, we were good friends. But the impetus for me doing this wasn't just to honor Peter. I'm kind of the leader of the pickleball group at 66th and 8th. And what happens is that people get lost all the time because Leif Erikson is gigantic. I don't know if everybody here is aware of it. It goes 4th Avenue to Fort Hamilton Parkway. These avenues are very long, every one of them. It goes from 4th Avenue to 5th Avenue, 6th Avenue, 7th Avenue, 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue, Fort Hamilton Parkway. And the Gowanus Expressway runs right in the middle of it. So if you park your car at 4th Avenue and try to walk, which is now we have a Team Reach group, it's called. It's like a social media for sports teams and things. And we have some computer savvy people that put a balloon in there or whatever you want to call it. And if you click on it, your GPS will bring you right to our courts. But if you're just going through Google and you're just trying to find it from Leif Erikson Park, sometimes it'll drop you off at 4th Avenue.
Where is it exactly? What street is
It's
it?
exactly at 66, between 66th and 67th on 8th Avenue. It's the end of the tennis courts. It was originally a junior tennis court area, and nobody used it. And one of the reasons was coaches really don't like junior tennis courts. They don't care if the kid is 4 years old. They want him hitting the ball over a real net on a real court, because at some point they're going to have to put them on a real court and they got to start teaching them all over again.
Right.
But nobody used the court for tennis. They used it for dog walking. They used it for hockey. They used it for skateboard. They used it for whatever, but they never used it for, never, ever seen anybody playing tennis in there.
How's the activity
So-
there now? How's the activity?
Excuse me?
How is the activity with the pickleball now? Is a lot of people using it?
Oh, it's packed. It's packed. I have like 700 members, over 700 members on my Team Reach group.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, if you felt like, joining just to see what's going on, if you want like a clue, it's I'm basically computer illiterate and I'm the administrator of this group. So it's really computer easy. You download something called Team Reach and you download the app. It usually takes about 30 seconds. After you get the little icon, you'll see it. It says Team Reach. They're going to ask you for a code. You put on the code would be on the line as one word, no capitals, ONTHELINE. And after you put in that code, you'll immediately be a member. You'll get to see loads of pictures of us. I mean, if you really want to have a laugh. Well, anyway, we've had parties there. We've videotaped them. There's so much on YouTube. I mean, there's so much stuff you could look at. But if you join Team Reach, it probably would be a good idea because eventually people will be talking about it, and it would be good for you to hear and you'd be able to comment. You could post pictures,
Great.
send direct messages, and if you have any problems, I think everybody's got my phone number. If not, I'll leave it somewhere,
Okay.
and you just call me and I'll walk you through it.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's Team TEAM Reach. That's the app. And then when you get the app on your phone, you put in the code on the line. and it'll bring you to a group called Friendly Pickleball. That's the group. That's the name of the group. And then you'll be able to see us. You'll see all the pictures of everybody playing there, and yeah, it'll be great.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really nice. Wow, it's very successful.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was great. I remember when, well, I remember once, originally there was a guy, I think his name was Richard Fahey. I forget exactly his last name. That might have been it. He was the first person that really loved pickleball. Peter was kind of smiling. It sounded a little strange to him, and that's strange to everybody. But he would try anything. So he said, all right. So they let Richard set up the net in the ballroom, and Richard would talk to every single person. And then it started to catch on. And then Peter began noticing like really incredible improvement from like, there were people actually parking their walkers and getting on the pickleball court and hitting the ball. I mean, hitting it good.
Yeah.
And it was like, how do they do it? And then they got to go back to their walkers. You know, they don't look like someone that uses a walker.
Right.
And he's just seen an incredible improvement, a lot of socialization compared to other activities. Everybody just sitting on the side, talking with each other till it was their turn to go. And then the COVID hit, and he was like, I don't want to lose all his progress and have to start all over again. And, you know, he searched a few. I was even looking with him because he used to call me because I always had free time. I was retired. And I was suggesting a park a little bit away on 75th Street. I forget the name of that park. But if he decided on 66th and 8th, and he got the nets, and I would see him in the mornings. I would go set up the nets with him in the morning, and till he got the routine down with his employees, and it was just great. And then, you know, people started buying their own nets. So he had a program where he would set the nets up, I think at 9 in the morning, and take them down at 11. But by the time he was taking them down, everybody else was there setting up their own nets. And then we got the permanent nets.
Right.
And the park is full every day. This is more of a working group. It's a younger group, actually. A lot of the people that started at 66th and 8th gravitated over to JJ Cardi, which is where Peter worked, obviously.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joe. I don't want to cut you off, but I'm the timekeeper reminder for the committee. Diane,
Yes.
we do need a recommendation
Yes, I'd like-
for full board submission.
First, I'd like to thank Joseph Walsh for his words and his actions and his making the proposal. And with that in mind, I will entertain a motion from the committee members to rename this portion of Leif Erikson Park as the Peter Lovett Pickleball Park. So anyone interested in making that motion?
Well, do I make the motion? Anyway,
Oh,
I'll
it's-
make.
No, I'm sorry. It has to be a board member.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Jonathan,
Jonathan
and a second to that motion?
is
Okay.
Leo.
I
Leah
can second
Dan?
that. I'd like to second that.
Okay, Leo seconded. So now,
Thank you.
favor, everyone just raise your hands, board members only. Okay, any opposed? Abstentions, recusals, it's unanimous.
Excellent, wonderful, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
We're very pleased to be able to bring this to the entire board at our next community board meeting. Thank you very, very much.
What's the next step after this?
So the next step is the general board meeting, which is next Thursday, the 15th at the Knights of Columbus at 7 p.m. The committee chair will give a report to all the board members. The committee members, she'll explain what the vote was here tonight. Then the full board will vote. If the board adopts the recommendation of the committee, we then send a letter to the Parks Commissioner requesting that this portion be renamed in Peter's honor for his
And
consideration.
should I be there? My sister be there next week? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah, that would be great if you're able to come. I'll make sure that you have, I'll make sure you have the details.
That'd be great. And when's the next, do they have a certain date they would make this?
That's in the
Yeah,
future.
so,
That's not
so then the Parks Commissioner will review it and he'll get back to us, and
Beautiful.
if they're able to proceed, then they'll notify you directly.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
You guys been actually awesome. I appreciate it.
May his
Thank you.
memory be eternal.
Well, yes, thank you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
and with
James.
that, we will move on to our second agenda item. And is it Jim is going to be presenting or?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Jim Morris. I work for the Parks Department. I'm the Director of Capital Projects for Brooklyn Operations. As we just mentioned, I work with the Brooklyn Parks Commissioner, Marty Marr. Before we get into what we're really going to be talking about, I'm going to quickly bounce it to Nick in just a moment. But I just wanted to say, Peter was, as much as he was a legend for the community, obviously, and for the senior center as well, he was a legend for Parkies. I worked with him not as much as some others in the because he was in the recreation division, but out of all, there's a lot of recreation centers in Brooklyn, as there are in the city. He was the one that everyone knew, everyone loved, everyone cherished, all those different things. So he was a big part of the Brooklyn Parky community, and we were all very sad. So it really is. It goes all different ways, not only just the community, but internally.
Thank
He
you.
was very well known. So this is lovely to see. And as Josephine, as you guys work through the process with the community board, I'll certainly put in a word with Commissioner Marr about that this is coming. I just to get it kind of jumpstart. And sounds like Chief Dalton has been
Yes.
working on it as well. So very pleased to hear this, and please our condolences.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very heartfelt. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Do I leave this now? Do I exit or?
Yeah, you can leave. You're always welcome to stay, but you certainly can leave now. Your portion is concluded, and we're moving on to our next agenda item.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
didn't want to impose. Okay.
No,
thank
I
you.
just wanted to say that because it's important to us.
Thank you, James. I appreciate that.
Of
Very
course, of
nice.
course. No problem. So
Bye-bye.
next, what we'll be talking about next is, so we're going to be talking about some what we call replacement in kind work in asphalt paths in two different parks in Community Board 10. So I'm going to quickly, in just a second, I'm going to shift over to Nick, who's going to be the actual designer and project manager for this work. But it's going to affect Owl's Head Park, as well as Diker Beach in the Bay 8th section, kind of the southern section of the park. If possible, Josephine, would it be possible to share our screen or have Nick share?
Yes, I've enabled anyone who wants to share can share.
So Nick, if you wouldn't mind just quickly introducing yourself. And we also have Chris Clay, who's our manager extraordinaire you all know him, he's a local. So wanted to give a shout out to him. But today we're going to talk about a little bit of this fantastic work. So I'll let Nick take it away.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick. I work for the Parks Department. I'm a senior landscape architect. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So as Jim mentioned, we're actually going to be talking about two parks. I'll start with Diker Beach Park. These are, as you mentioned, our reconstruction in kind, what we call our state of good repairs program. So it's really, taking the park, taking what works and like reconstructing it one-to-one. And then, adding benches if necessary, doing restriping, but it's not your typical sort of park redesign. So this is more informative than anything, but obviously, room for questions anytime. So Diker Beach Park, we're focusing, our general goals are to reconstruct everything in kind, to improve safe pavements, to improve pedestrian circulation, and basically to improve connectivity to different active and passive recreation within the park. This is the park, as you all know. This is the specific area we're looking at right now. So really in the sort of southeast corner of the park next to Fort Hamilton. It's a park which is adjacent to flooding, but itself not flooding. Couple more charts. Heavily neighboring next to a heavily residential neighborhood. Just the general existing conditions. So we have, about 8 different points of access in purple over here. We have tennis courts. There's a conversation, which is now public restroom building, sorry. An MPPA, which is what we use for multi-purpose play areas, and then handball courts. The rest is pathways with benches, which go around the ball fields to this sort of alley, which was kind of recently redone. So this is why it's not in the dashed line. This is our inspection when we were out in the field maybe a year and a half ago. So really seeing, the state of disrepair of existing asphalt. So we see this alligator cracking, same thing for the concrete pavement on the sidewalk. We have these aging bollards that are missing in places. And then you can kind of see here on the picture on the right what happens when you have a bench pad, but the bench is missing. So these are kind of things we would be fixing, including, you know, the bench itself if it's damaged. And then the area which has what we call hex block pavers is going to be remain as is. We're not going to be touching that. Condition for this MPPA. So we have some basketball backstops on sort of outdated system with expanded metal grill, and then sort of empty tree pits and things like that. So we just kind of look at all this and think, you know, what can be improved and reconstructed better. We will not be doing anything with fencing, but just kind of showing you on the right picture showing the existing tennis court. And this is our scope of work. So I'll just kind of walk you through it. Actually, I'll show you the next slide, which has little arrows. Basically, everything in pink is existing MPPA or tennis courts. So this would be reconstructed in asphalt with new color seal coat, which is that material you see on basketball courts or tennis courts. We heard from, you know, different community members, or we were working with the borough on maybe restriping some of the tennis courts to pickleball courts. That seemed to have come as a request. So this would just be with color seal coat and line striping. We would be redoing in blue concrete for the handball court and sort of certain flags of pavement on the sidewalk. We wouldn't be touching the walls themselves because this is really focused on pavement, and the type of contract can really only address that. And then everything in sort of tan gray in the middle, well, that's the existing pathways. So we would be reconstructing an asphalt 1-to-1, replacing curbs if necessary, replacing benches, as I was showing earlier, where they're missing. And then even some segments of granite block around the tree pits. And then in the bottom over here, you have like a little red cross. So this is actually, you know, sort of remnant of a path which currently connects part of the park to the highway, which feels like both a liability and kind of just dangerous in general. So this is really falling into disrepair. It's really only bringing people close to high traffic areas. So I really think it should be retired and just kind of removed as part of this project. And then this little inset kind of showing we would be putting benches along the line with adequate spacing between them for wheelchairs to be able to pull in. These are some of the materials I'm mentioning. So really asphalt pavement with, here you see a flush curb. Sometimes it's raised. World's Fair benches, the 1939 style with a RPL slat, which is an expanded or an extruded plastic, which is what we use now at the Parks Department, with weathered wood color for a nice historic patina. Removable bollards, removable at the request of our maintenance and operations team to be able to come in, you know, as necessary, but then also stop general traffic from coming into the park. So this would be at all park entrances. And then bottom left is what, you know, a nicely done sidewalk would look like. The color seal coat to match the existing for tennis courts, pickleball courts, and basketball courts too. And that's it for Decker Beach Park. So I don't know how it works. Maybe you want to, I'm happy to field a few questions, or if you prefer, I can go through Owl's Head first and then we can talk about both of them. I'll defer to you.
Why don't we go ahead and hear the Owl's Head
Okay,
presentation as well?
great. Yeah, I'll try to, I mean, they're both, you know, quite quick, but so Owl's Head Park, very similar treatment. This is a $2 million project. This is really only focusing on the pathways. There's actually a large scale capital project happening at the playground area and basketball courts. So we're just working in conjunction with that, but we're focusing on all the interior paths. So again, our goals are to provide safe pavement and access for all park users. This is the location, as you all know. Owl's Head Park, and we're really focusing on all the interior pathways. Again, the park is not itself in a flood zone, surrounded by a residential community. Existing condition, just showing you in orange, the pathways that are within our scope. And then what you see as future reconstruction project here, this is what I mentioned earlier about the playground and the basketball court being constructed as part of a separate project. Same thing, we're kind of seeing asphalt, particularly areas where you don't have a curb kind of failing and in disrepair. Benches, which are an outdated style, which are broken in place. So we would, be focusing on replacing these with new concrete pads and 1939 World's Fair benches. Wicket fence, which is kind of falling apart in places or bent in. So we kind of looked at replacing it, maybe something a little bit lower that would still stop, the general public from going into the plant bed, but something a little bit more durable. And so this scope is really straightforward. It's really just reconstructing the pathways one-to-one, concrete pads, and the World's Fair benches, and then restoring lower wicket fence. So this is our scope of work. So one thing I want to note on this next slide is that we're thinking of doing this project in 2 phases. So to ensure that, at least half the park will be always usable at one given time. Also to ensure that there'll always be access to the public restroom building, which is very important. We've heard to all communities we work with. So this area in blue and this area in orange would be done separately, right? You would have one completely closed off, the other one open, and vice versa. With the idea that the area in orange would happen while the full-scale reconstruction of the playground and the basketball court are happening, so that you're really just kind of closing the east side of the park, keeping that closed for like 3 months to 6 months, and then moving on to the blue portion. So in terms of phasing, we're thinking about starting in the spring, that could extend to the summer for at least the first phase. The purple project might take a little bit longer because that's a full-scale reconstruction. And then same thing for the other portion, which would be another 3 months of closure, partial closure. Again, materials, this is much more straightforward than Dyker Beach even. So asphalt pavement, curbs, 1939 World's Fair benches, and wicket fence. And then this is really the scope of work. So that's it really in terms of the scope for both projects. I'm happy to take any questions.
In terms of the first presentation, would the entire park be closed down at one time as well? Or will you be doing phased work there?
So over here, just because this is only a small portion of Dyker Beach Park, we're actually going to be doing this in one project, as one project, yeah. So, this is not closing the rest of the park, but for this one, we would just be doing it as one phase, yeah.
I have a question about Owl's Head.
Sure.
There is a path that goes around the perimeter of the park. Is that also part of this?
The one where there's the bike lane?
Yeah.
So no, that one was constructed, I want to say 10 years ago. So it wouldn't be part of this reconstruction.
Got it.
It's not in the disrepair yet.
But would you still be able to, I'm just looking at when you had the orange and blue lines up, it looked like you wouldn't be able to access it when you're working on. Is that true? Or was I not looking correctly?
No, you can still access it. This would remain open basically. Where you have these 2 double black lines is where you have that perimeter path. So that would remain open.
Okay, thank you.
And as would the dog run as well. The
Dog run.
Yeah, the dog run.
Yeah.
As well.
Got
And
it.
the skate park.
And skate park. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Any other questions, comments?
I just had a really quick comment, just so people know, just so it's information. It's still a year away, but as Nick was saying, Owl's Head is almost getting a complete refresh, which is great. We're very exciting, but during that time, there's going to be some timelines. So just so everyone knows, It looks like the playgrounds, the 2 playgrounds and the basketball courts that's one contract. That's the big capital project that's going to be happening, as Nick is nice to highlight in purple. So it's going to start next spring, and those contracts take a year. So that whole area is going to be closed for likely a year. It's a very, very big project. But it means everything is going to be new. The playgrounds are going to be all brand new. And it's an officially at this point an award-winning design. The designers that worked on this design, they won an award from our kind of internal parks committee or parks design thing, and that's for the whole city. So it's going to be a really great project. However, during this time, just because of timelines and stuff like that, there's going to be a lot of work, but it's good. It means a shorter amount of time to get it back, what is essentially going to be like an all new park. And we work, and point being is that throughout this, as you can see in this, the public restroom is going to stay open throughout this entire process, including the capital project. So there's not a point when the bathroom will be closed off. It's just going to be a lot of work going on at the same time.
So you said that this is going to, phase 1 will take approximately a year?
So this is different work, but the purple part is different from what.
Oh,
Nick
just
was
the purple part.
Just the
Okay,
purple
okay.
part. Yeah. But so yeah, the purple part is a full scale capital project with a lot of that we're fully bidding out. All of this, just so everyone knows, all of this is possible almost entirely because of Justin Brandon, Councilmember Brandon. So we thank him massively for all of this. He's done an incredible amount in CB10, obviously, just in terms of who he is, but in terms of the parks in the area, has funded an incredible amount of work recently. And JJ Carty's under construction right now. So there's a lot of stuff going on, which is incredibly exciting. But to answer your question initially, correct, the purple part will take
Yeah.
approximately.
I know, we had approved that a while ago.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if that was going to involve the other phase as well. In any case.
You have a question from board member Terry Brennan?
Hi, can I ask why it takes a year? I mean, we build buildings in less time than that, so is it that the crews are fairly small that are doing the work, or what exactly it makes that the timeline?
That's a great question. I think we are beholden to the city system and the capital system within the Parks Department. Those contracts are given out for a year, and you're correct. It depends on the contractor in terms of what they're able to do, but that's just the city system right now is 1 year. There's a lot through that process. There's permitting. There's a lot of different processes that happen underground that is not as simple as just kind of building the play equipment on the ground. There's a lot of subterranean work that needs to happen. Plumbing is the thing that happens that takes a lot of time, just because getting permits, getting all sorts of stuff, it racks up the time. And trust me, if it could be shorter, we would love it, because it would just make everything.
I have nothing. I'm just trying to understand. My nephew works for Parks up at Randall's Island, so it's just, so a year does not mean working continuously for a year.
It's dependent on weather. In New York, sometimes it gets too cold to work. So you're correct. It is dependent on the weather. Sometimes things are weather dependent on terms of installation. But the best process we've been able to get the contractors in and out of there as quickly as possible has been a year. Unfortunately, I know it's a long time.
It's going to be wonderful when it's done. Not having a playground for a year on that whole end of the neighborhood is really going to challenge a lot of parents. So
yeah, we agree. No, it's certainly the part that stings. We don't love taking those things away. It's just more that the thing that they get back is so incredible. But you're totally right. It stings. It's not fun to lose that. But yeah, it's the system we're in.
Well, thanks for the work.
Diane, we also have a question from the public. Will you be adding more benches or just replacing the existing benches?
We're replacing them 1-to-1.
Okay, thank you.
And we're adding more benches in the areas where the benches were missing. So anything that originally was there, we'll be adding in. So anything that was originally there but not there currently because they're broken or destroyed, we'll be replacing. But we're not going to be adding an absolute number of benches, compared to what was previously designed.
Okay.
And one big bonus before we leave is in what Nick was showing about Diker Beach, we're going to be kind of morphing some of the tennis courts into pickleball courts, which is very exciting. Obviously, across the board, it's a phenomenon, not only in Brooklyn, not only in the city, all over the place. And there's so many parks that we're getting. Obviously, Marine Park, when I got on the call, we were talking about the new courts out in Marine Park around the Oval near Avenue S that got new courts. So certainly very, very exciting. And we're embracing it as best we can because there's so much interest in the sport. So Diker Beach is going to have some courts there.
Great. Jim, could you share these presentations with our office?
No problem.
Okay, thanks.
That's tomorrow.
Thank you.
It's just me.
Okay, once again, any additional questions or comments? Okay, if none, then let's move the question. I will entertain a motion from the board members. Okay. I'm sorry, Jonathan? Okay, and a second? Thank you, Henry. Okay, all in favor of approving this recommendation? Say aye or raise your hand. Okay, anybody opposed or any recusals or abstentions? Okay, Josephine, there you have it.
Thank you. Okay, very good.
Thank you so much, folks. And we'll work
Thank
with
you.
all of you very, very heavily before this starts so that it's
Yeah,
it doesn't stay, it's going to be rough when it starts, but we'll work it with the whole community board.
I
About when
think communication is key here and letting the
yeah.
public know and.
Oh yeah, especially Owl's Head.
Yeah.
Owl's Head is going to be a lot of work happening at the same time, and I want everyone in the community board to know that first and foremost, it's still a year away, but it's going to be a lot of work in there. However, we're going to get back. You are going to get back an incredible park. It's just during that process, it's going to kind of sting a little bit for both parks. They won't happen at the same time with Diker and Owl's Head, but Owl's Head's up first, and it's going to get a lot of love all at the same time. It's just going to sting for a little bit, but it'll be great.
All right, well, we'll be anxious to see the outcome.
Yeah, great.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Parks. We appreciate all your hard work and your concern for our community. So with that in mind, is there anything else, Josephine? Or,
Nope, that's all that's on the agenda this evening.
okay, so who'd like to make the motion to adjourn? Thanks.
Lots of hands. Sorry, Chris,
Okay,
Henry,
Chris.
and Henry. Thank you all.